Good morning. It's Thursday, September 25th, 2014. This is Tech Talk Today, episode 65. My name is Chris, and did you see the hubbub on the web today? We're going to get to that. We're going to talk all about Shellshock and the big vulnerability that everybody's talking about, but we're going to warm up first. So, Mumba Room, time-appropriate greetings. Have you done your Tech Talk Today stretches yet? Yeah. All right. Before we get into Shellshock, because that's what everybody on the internet is talking about this morning, I want to start with a little rumor. It's been all iPhone all the time, wall-to-wall iPhone, so it's high time that we got a little Nexus action. So we have a pretty strong rumor posted by 9 to 5 Google about the upcoming Nexus 6, also potentially rumored to be called the Nexus X. So we've all been talking about this quite a while, including is it even going to come out, but now it looks like it's quite legit. So here's what we know from a report that came out a month ago that I sat on, but I'm going to tell you the details now. This came up from GFX Bench, and it looks like we know some hardware details about the next Nexus phone. 2.6 gigahertz quad-core Snapdragon 805 processor, 3 gigabytes of RAM compared to the iPhone's 1 gig. 32 gigabytes of internal storage, pretty nice. I mean, that'll work. 13 megapixel rear-facing camera and a 2 megapixel front-facing camera, obviously shipping with Android L. Now, here's the biggest unknown, but 9 to 5 Google's report has given us some additional details on what the screen would be, and get ready for this monster. 9 to 5 Google is reporting that the new Nexus phone will have a 5.92-inch screen with QHD resolution of 2560 by 1440. The screen will be so dense, it'll have a PPI of 498, which is pretty great. And it's going to have a battery to power all that of 3,200 milliamps, which is, I think, about what the OnePlus has right now. Previous rumors suggested a 5.2-inch screen, but the new updated rumors say 5.92-inch screen. As the overall appearance of the device, it's going to basically look like a huge Motorola X, is the rumor. Of course, the rumor is that Motorola will be manufacturing the next one. So a big Motorola X, 5.92 inches. Is that way too big, guys?
Oh, I like big on phones.
That's a tablet.
But that's just me.
That's a 6-inch tablet.
Yeah, I like big. like I said, I like the Note. I mean, I'm in love with the Note.
Oh, okay.
It's a phablet. Technically.
See, the Note, for me, I had to bail. On the Note. It was too big for me. I don't know, Eric, you've got the Nexus 5 right now. I see, Eric, in my opinion, the Nexus 5 is the perfect size.
Absolutely.
Could you imagine going up? I mean, so yesterday I was at Staples, and I held the new iPhone 6 for the first time, just the 4.7-inch, and it felt ridiculously large. Okay, the 4.7, it felt ridiculously large. I can't even imagine what the 5.5 would feel like.
Huh. You know, my parents both have the LG G2s, or my dad's got a G Pro, rather, and they are phablets, and they don't feel hard on the hands, but in terms of their needs, because they're the older generation,
right,
it works better for them because they can see more.
That's why my dad is buying an iPhone 5.5, because on the iPhone 5.5, or I guess 6 Plus, they have a magnification mode that makes the text bigger. It lowers the resolution. It makes everything more readable.
Yeah.
He's all about that.
Lots of accessibility options, and I can see that. In fact, the thing is, like back when before I got my Nexus 5, before I got the phone before that, I almost got an LG G2.
Mm-hmm.
I almost did, because, I don't mind the form factor. But on the other hand, I can't hold it in one hand and text with my thumb.
I think
that's the only thing, but of course my hands are small anyways.
I think for me, 5.2 would be the sweet spot. That's about what the current Note is, right? Or the Note 3, I can't remember.
Note is.
It's somewhere in that range. I can't remember, but 5.2 seems like perfect for the next Nexus. If they go 5.9, I think I'm going to pass.
But, I don't mind too much, because I've got my Nexus 5 as well as my Dell Venue 8, which is an 8-inch tablet.
Well, I bet. See, the thing is, when you get phones this big, you stop. I mean, in my experience, I stopped using my tablet. Okay, that was our warm-up story. Now we got to talk about the big story this week. A bug in Bash is creating a big security hole. Some are calling it as big or bigger than Heartbleed. We'll get into that in just a second. But here's the details in case this is the first time you're hearing about this. It kind of started going around yesterday. The bug discovered by Stefan Shellshock, I think is how you say his name, is related to how Bash processes environment variables passed by the operating system or a program that's calling a Bash script. If Bash has been configured as the default system shell, which is pretty common, it can be used by network-based attacks against servers and other Unix-based and Linux-based devices via web requests, secure shell telnet sessions, or other programs that use Bash to execute scripts. So think about one of the things you learn when you become a Linux system administrator is a lot of the things that happen in the front end are actually being taken care of on the back end by bash scripts, right? So, like things, yeah. I mean, I've had lots of Apache servers that have called bash scripts. In fact, Ars Technica notes that while bash is often just thought of as a local shell, it's frequently used by Apache servers to execute CGI scripts for dynamic content through something like mod CGI. A crafted web request targeting a vulnerable CGI application could launch code on the server. Similar attacks would be possible via OpenSSH. Errata Security has come out, and they're doing some pretty good reporting on this. We'll start with Robert Graham's piece on Errata Security. He says, yeah, this is as big as Heartbleed. This is a really huge deal. He says today's bash bug is as big as Heartbleed, and that's for many reasons. The first reason is the bug interacts with other software in unexpected ways. We know that it's interacting with the shell, and it's dangerous, but we write code that does it anyways. An enormous percentage of software interacts with the shell in some fashion. Thus, we'll never be able to catalog all the software out there that is vulnerable to the bash bug. This is similar to the OpenSSL bug. OpenSSL included a bajillion software packages, so we're never able to fully quantify exactly how much software is vulnerable.
Of course not, because it's bash. I mean, it runs everything. I mean,
it even runs on OS 10.
Yeah. By the same token, like I read all this stuff on Twitter yesterday. All these people are talking about bash like it's some sort of nightmare monstrosity. It's like, man, this is like where I live. I live on bash.
Yeah,
what are you talking about?
Yeah. What do you think of the term Shellshock? That's pretty
hilarious.
That's pretty good. Heartbleed was pretty. We're getting some good names these days, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, Shellshock's pretty good.
Wow. Yeah.
So there's a lot of, and here's just an example of how far-reaching this is. In fact, Robert Graham, the author over at the Errata Security, he pointed out on his Twitter feed that this is, to give you an example of how widespread this is, Cygwin is affected. So if you have Cygwin on a Windows box, you're affected by this.
Well, of course. I mean, like, people may not remember this, but once upon a time there were things called terminals, and that was our computer. And that's still there. It's still behind.
Does that support
GUI.
Does that support multi-touch and gestures?
Oh yeah, and dual monitors too.
Oh, good. So this is obviously, today we're kind of processing the raw news. We are also already seeing some first attacks being discovered in the wild, which is kind of amazing. This is already happening. We've got a couple of sites that are reporting this, and I also have in the show notes a way for you to check yourself. So if you go over to Tech Talk Today episode 65 show notes and scroll down, there's a way for you to test to see if your version of bash is vulnerable. Cool. Ossard earlier yesterday claimed to receive several reports that the bug was being exploited in the wild. Security researcher Robert Graham, who we just mentioned, claims to have found at least 3,000 systems vulnerable to the bug. However, Graham's scan only looked at systems on port 80, so he's only checking ones that are affected by Apache. The researcher noted the embedded web servers on odd ports are the real danger, and scans of these could give a couple of times higher results. So, this brings up the thing about, not many embedded devices use bash, to be honest with you, but there are some. And sometimes it's more sophisticated devices like firewalls and routers. Not so often routers, though, but there are some that use bash. And I have one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think the firmware I have on my wireless router at home uses bash. I don't know if this is okay. So guys, are you worried about this? Is this something that's concerning? There's a patch out now. You can go update. I think for most distros.
Well, yeah, just about every Linux distribution already has the update in the repositories. So as long as people just patch their S,
I'm about to say, I hear Alan.
Yeah.
That is PFSense is not affected.
Isn't that always the problem, though? I don't know if does
patch their S?
I don't know what shell PFSense uses. Not sure.
Yeah, I don't either.
I'm not sure.
It's BSD, so it probably just uses shell.
I wonder if this is. This could be one of those things where we're just seeing kind of the tip of the iceberg of this problem.
Could be. I'm likening it to Heartbleed back a few months ago when that first came out, and it was just the tip of the iceberg. At first.
Right.
And then we start to see how far it went. And it went to the point where government institutions were already exploiting it a year before we knew about it.
PFSense does just use shell. And the other thing is, though, is I think Heartbleed. So what was bad about Heartbleed is we shouldn't get the two confused, because Heartbleed allowed a remote attacker to read your RAM, right? So that way you could get credentials. This is different. This actually lets a little bit more, lets you take over a box, things like that. But also,
and seems pretty straightforward to patch. I mean, Heartbleed is a big pernicious problem.
That's true. That it is
Heartbleed.
easier to patch.
It was actually like, you had to actually know what was going on in your system to really patch.
This brings us back to a fundamental problem with so many Linux distributions is if you want to update, it's all in, right? You're not just updating, I mean, you can, but you're going to go outside the standard tools to update just one package, right? It's not as
exactly.
awesome. But think about it.
You can just sudo apt get installed.
Sure, on your box, package. But sure, on your computer, yeah. But think about it in an enterprise where you've got maybe 500 Red Hat enterprise servers, and you're managing.
God invented Puppet.
Well, but in this scenario, you're managing all of them through Red Hat Enterprise Services because that's what you're paying thousands of dollars to Red Hat for. Is that awesome? But do
I have to use Red Hat?
But do you see like what my point is it sounds really straightforward to patch, but then you just start adding a little bit more complexities that actual like enterprises face, and it delays them patching. It's just enough to delay the patching. And the thing is unlike OpenSSL, this is on everything, right?
Well, yeah.
Bash is on every Linux box.
Computer.
Right.
Yeah.
Not every Linux box had necessarily OpenSSL on something that was listening for connections.
Well, most of them did.
No, not for listening. A lot of them.
Not in the enterprise. Yeah, okay.
Well, no. All of them probably had OpenSSL in a client capacity, but not most. Yeah, but the vast majority probably were not listening on services that use OpenSSL, right? Whereas the predominant majority of Linux boxes have Bash, right? So the deployment of Bash versus OpenSSL is way higher, even in the sense of like, because Bash is just used by so many things like apt-get or yum on the back end, like so many things are using it.
It runs your computer.
Right. Whereas OpenSSL, for the most part, for the majority of users, is using the client capacity where they're going out and connecting, not having connections come into them.
Gotcha.
So this could be worse than Heartbleed, potentially.
I doubt it. I mean,
I hope so.
It's so, I don't know. Heartbleed was like pernicious and difficult to fix. Actually required understanding what was happening.
Yeah, and the other thing about Heartbleed, right, is it was affecting probably like things that are customer facing, like your web services and things like that. So it seems like that would be more resistance, but I still worry that, I have seen so many enterprises that do not patch. Like, they just don't patch because they're...
Oh, yeah, you guys talk about it all the time on text.
Yeah, because they're super scared of crashing.
Borking everything.
It's such a bummer. Everybody's such a bunch of fraidy cats. Meanwhile, I'm Pac-Man and SYU every single day. Every day!
He's rolling.
I'll be my distro be rolling.
Zippered up so that I can check for the next factory packages. Let's see, we got GNOME 3.14 came out yesterday.
Whoop whoop. Yep. All right. So let's talk about rolling. Let's talk about rolling into Ohio Linux Fest. Albert Wester just set up a Google Plus event. We'll have it linked in the show notes. You can also go to bit.ly/Ohio Linux 2014, bit.ly/Ohio Linux 2014, and just let us know if you're going to be there, because as the day gets closer, we'll probably figure out a time to meet up with folks. And this will be the place we can coordinate all of that. So we're setting it up early, so that way we have time for people to come and say if they can make it. bit.ly/Ohio Linux 2014, or we'll have a link in the show notes. You can probably search Google Plus for Ohio Linux Fest too. I don't know how Google Plus works. It's too hard for me.
It defies you.
Yeah. Let's see. Matt writes in. He says he'll be there virtually.
Yeah, so will I.
Yeah,
as will I.
We have 7 confirmed going, but I know it's going to be a lot more than that. Okay, so, I honestly, I think it's ridiculous that the bend the iPhone thing gets traction every year, or the put it in the microwave thing, or put it in water, or the yellowed screen.
What do people expect?
Right.
I mean, you're going to break the phone? Yeah, you're going to break the phone.
Right. You have a large... You see, the thing is what I realized yesterday is it shows you the difference when Apple releases a 5.5-inch phone, 10 million people in one weekend buy those phones, right?
That's a good point.
When Samsung releases a 5.5-inch phone, they sell 10 million over a whole period of a year, right?
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden you've got 10 million hipsters, or I'm sorry, not to stereotype, but you got 10 million people walking around with these larger phones in their pockets, and they're bending them because they're metal. Okay, Internet, guess what? We all just learned metal bent. Sorry you didn't get good education in school. Now, this next problem, though, this is a legitimate problem that I think things should be reversed. I think the amount of attention this is getting should be what the iPhone bending problem was getting, and the amount of attention the iPhone bending problem was getting should be what this... Anyways, you get what I'm saying. So you might have seen this on Twitter and other places. iOS 8.0.1 comes out, and immediately people take to the web and say, it's turning off my cellular service. My Touch ID just broke, etc., etc., etc. So following the release of iOS 8.0.1 yesterday morning, numerous users found their cellular service was disabled and reported no service. Didn't matter what carrier they're on. Also, Touch ID began to fail or was non-functional.
Awesome!
It does appear, however, the issue was limited to iPhone 6 and 6 Plus users, not older phone models. Apple has recommended you restore via iTunes to a previous version. iOS 8.01 is no longer available, and Apple says they're actively investigating reports of the problem and working on 8.02, which should be out soon.
Pretty embarrassing. I mean, considering that's, your market, that's what you're known for doing.
And you're limited
at work.
Your hardware. It's not like you have
you're making it work in your hardware.
That is not cool.
Right.
Under any circumstance. They should be ashamed of themselves.
I think so too, because it's like
QA.
This is your brand new device, and here's the other thing.
Again, it also totally shows, once again, Apple sucks at software.
I think so, but here's the other thing that is a little different about the Apple model. In Android and Windows Phone cases, this would be slowly trickled out over a period of months, and it would be caught a lot sooner. Whereas Apple's model is, boom, everybody gets it at once. Like I saw something like already almost 50% of all iPhones have now upgraded to iOS 8. Right? There's no other platform in the world that gets that kind of adoption rate.
If you're gonna roll something out like that, I mean, they're gonna be failures.
So you can understand it from that standpoint, but at the same time, aren't you supposed to be the guys and gals that are making the CPU, the hardware, the operating system from top to bottom? So shouldn't you have like good Q&A because you don't have all the fragmentation problems that Android has?
Yeah.
Just saying.
That's the exact point I was making.
Yeah.
There is no excuse for releasing something that crappy into the universe.
I think what it was is the update they pushed out restored the health kit functionality that wasn't in iOS 8.0, and they wanted to have that by the end of the month because they said they'd have it out by the end of the month, and so they rushed it.
Better late than broken.
Oh, I bet Tim Cook took a few whippings to some guys down there in their software QA department.
He's too much of a nice guy.
Probably. Hey, I think Spazzy C submitted this to the subreddit. Awesome. And I was going to mention it anyways. I think this is a really good opportunity if you've been considering getting Plex Pass. I am a huge fan of Plex. Plex is the best thing in the world. I hope one day Plex is how we all consume media. It's so great. It's so flexible.
Plex consumes me.
Seriously, if I could go have a little dirty relationship with Plex on the side, I think my wife would allow it. That's how much we love Plex.
Stay away from Plex. Fine.
So here's the bad news. On September 29th, they're raising the Plex Pass subscription price for new subscribers. Plex Pass is really sweet. Among a couple of things, it makes it really easy to get all of your content from your house on any mobile device or on a web page. That's how I stream TV from my house or vice versa. The studio and my house both have Plex servers, and I can watch the content from each other on the Plex servers. It's amazing. I can also stream
on any device.
Yeah, I can also stream Chase's media library to my Roku. I mean, it's all really awesome. So they're going to increase from the monthly price will go from $3.99 to $4.99, but don't get monthly. They have annuals. The annual is going to go from $29.99 to $39.99 US. And the lifetime, which is, I think, the way to go here, because
totally.
Yeah, I mean, I'm already a year in, and there's no way I would not. I would absolutely buy again for another year. So here's the best, and this is the best deal because the year price, the annual Plex Pass is going to go from $74.99 to $149.99.
That's a pretty
for lifetime
increase.
Yeah, from $74 to for basically $75 to $150.
That one's doubling. The other ones are going up, let's see, $1, $10. That one's doubling.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they have to amortize. I mean, because it is lifetime.
So you've got until next Monday. So we're recording this on Thursday. The following Monday is when the price increases go into effect. The 29th.
Go get Plex.
Yeah,
awesome.
I think it is. I don't. They're not paying. No sponsorship here. But I would fully endorse that and recommend. I've got it. Okay, so go get your. We'll have links to that in the show notes if you guys want to jump on that. One last story.
Totally is like the future.
I think so.
Crazy.
I think I've built every media center under the sun from Myth TV to some of the Windows versions, including Windows Media Center, to lots of XBMC installations. and nothing has been as great as Plex, and nothing has really achieved not just spousal approval factor, because XBMC got close, but like total full-on spousal appreciation. Like she tells people about how much she loves it. And for me, somebody who struggled through building media center systems over the years that were constantly a source of frustration.
Oh, God.
Right? Plex.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, and then now, so I have one Plex server running on a Linux box, and then we've got Rokus in all of the rooms, so we get everything on the Rokus plus Plex. It's just awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, this isn't really this is a tech story. I mean, right? Spaceflight's tech. I just wanted to mark the occasion in Tech Talk today that India successfully launched their first Mars mission. I believe this makes them the first and only nation to make it to Mars successfully on their first attempt.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not. I think I heard that. So, took 300 days, 420 million miles. But the Indian satellite has arrived in orbit around Mars. Did it, 2 days ago, I believe? And here's the best part. They did it for $74 million, which makes it the cheapest interplanetary mission ever to be undertaken by the world.
Wow!
Yeah. Which is good because they have
crazy.
some poverty issues, so that's probably a good thing. But glad they didn't spend too much money, but it's amazing, and it shows you that India's really getting, they're in that league now.
Well, and that the technology has caught up to such an extent that there's not such a huge R&D investment required anymore. That's crazy numbers, $77 million.
This is so cool. This is the coolest thing to see ever. So it's just neat. It's just neat to see another country get to Mars. And I also, wouldn't it be amazing if slowly but surely a little new space competition started brewing? There's China announced that they're going to send a manned mission to Mars, and I believe Russia has announced that they are currently scouting locations for a manned mission to the moon. So it's getting interesting. We'll see what.
And America is right there doing. No.
Well, we're working on some stuff. I think
we got robots.
Once we get done buying those, building those CIA spy satellites that we just hand over to the. Did you hear about that story? Where here's two telescopes that are just as powerful as the Hubble that we've been using secretly. We're done with them now because we replaced them. You can have them.
Well, hang on. Boeing has been contracted to build a new spaceship.
Right, that's right. Yep. I mean, that's a ways off, but we also have a pretty successful. I mean, it's going in the direction of successful commercial space industry in the U.S. too, which is not something to laugh at. That's actually pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, and our robots are really no joke. I mean, no, I'm serious.
We have the best robots, dude.
The degree of science that we're getting out of our robots.
Dude, tell me about it. We have a robot on Mars right now that has lasers.
Lasers are Mars!
and the only thing that England has in space is a Raspberry Pi.
Oh. Hey, you know what?
Oh, damn.
Probably runs Linux, so that's cool. I like that.
Positive in the freedom movement.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so I think that'll wrap us up for this week's Tech Talk Today run. Tech Talk Today runs Monday through Thursdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, jblive.tv. It'd be great to have you join us, and you can show up in the Mumble Room, too. We have an open Mumble Room. We just want to make sure you have a good working mic and you sound okay, and then you can get in and comment on the stories with us. It's a great way to interact with the community, but if the timing doesn't work out for you, but you still love the show and want to help make it improve any way you can, techtalktoday.reddit.com. Your links, your comments, your votes help over there. Give me an idea of what you like to see. Help Eric out. Eric's doing all the heavy lifting this week. Well, that and Spazzy C. No, I kid. There's some of you other down there, but I mean, come on. Eric was dominating this week.
I can.
Yeah. But it's cool. I know. You can't always. Maybe there's another way you want to get a hold of me. Guess what? You can do that too today at jupiterbroadcasting.com. That's email. It's old school, right? I mean, why not?
Wow.
I know. It's like sending. Actually, nobody ever sends letters. Nobody ever sends letters.
I do.
Okay. Well, that's true, actually. That is true. You actually send handwritten letters.
And created an awesome guest book.
That's true, too.
Oh, yeah, silence.
That's very nice. All right. So I thought since we talked about the space flight to Mars from India, we'd wrap with a little news coverage of the event just to mark the historic occasion in Tech Talk Today. Normally we do a commercial, but I felt for today, for this event, we'd get a little bit of history in our books. So see everybody next week. Thank you for joining me. Hope to see you on Monday, and have a great weekend.
30 seconds to go, a nerve-wracking countdown, then this. India became the first in the world to successfully reach Mars's orbit on its first attempt, the country's Prime Minister Narendra Modi celebrating the occasion.
History has been created today. We have dared to reach out into the unknown and have achieved the near impossible.
Launched in November last year, it's Asia's first, joining the league of only the US, Russia, and the European Space Agency. It's also the cheapest interplanetary mission ever, costing $74 million, a fraction of NASA's Maven, which reached Mars orbit last week and cost 9 times more. Modi recently boasted it costs less to send the orbiter to Mars than it did to make the Hollywood movie Gravity. Scientists say the primary aim is to test India's engineering capabilities, the next step to study the red planet.